What you are listening to is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual litigants with a case pending in the squared circle. Both parties have agreed to dismiss their cases and have their disputes settled here in our forum, the Turnbuckle Debate.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Turnbuckle Debate. My name is Sneed.
I'm Chad.
And joining us are the boys from ExtraCooler, Nick and Matt, back to do some debating with us. What's going on, fellas?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having us. This is round 2 for me.
Round 3 for me over here.
I love it. I love it. I have I reached into my cooler here.
Hell yeah.
I felt like it was the right thing to do with the ExtraCooler boys being here. So cheers, fellas. Let's get to some debating. Before we get to debating, you guys have been crushing it. You did a breakdown of Bash at the Beach. You did a breakdown of SummerSlam 97. Those episodes were great. What else do you have in store? And comment on kind of deep diving into those two events.
Oh, man. We always try and like pick an event or something around the same time frame. So we knew we were going to do something for the summer. And it popped in my head one day, like, let's do a compare and contrast of WCW and WWF at the time, what's going on in that summer. It was perfect. And we like to throw things up in my Instagram at ExtraCooler and have people vote on it. And everybody voted on 97, which I was shocked because we thought that they were going to pick 96 just because of Bash at the Beach and, you know, Hogan turn. But 97 won. And it was a lot of fun just comparing the two. And you know, we never claim to be WCW guys on our show and never will. And it's just cool to watch something for the first time or, you know, really dive into it.
You watch with such a different lens when you are sitting home and doing your homework, as we like to call it. But man, 97 was a blast. Nick's always talking about how it's his favorite year of wrestling, and it certainly lived up to the bill. And I'm very happy that 96 did not win because those Shot of Nostalgia boys got that on lock.
yeah, the 97, I got to agree. I think 97, 98. What's better than that in pro wrestling? I mean, 97 is flawless.
Oh my God. There's so many things that happen across everywhere.
Both sides of the dial.
Yeah.
Everything was clicking.
Man.
Well, I guess it's, we got some topics for you guys. This is going to be a fun one. We have some fun topics in store.
Some fun ones going on. It's a shame Tom couldn't be here to join us.
Yeah. What's up with that guy? This is my second time on the debate show, and he's hiding.
I feel like he's dodging you, man.
Yeah, right?
He's ducking you.
I know
Tom, where you at,
not.
man?
He was not on the last one. I don't think he was on the first one I did either. I'm gonna have to go back and double check. I don't remember.
What's the deal, man? What is going on?
He's throwing some shade towards ExtraCooler. I don't like it.
Yeah, what's up with
I think
that?
he's been on our show before, so I think he's like checked us off his list, and now he's moved on to something else.
I got him to talk about Roddy Piper. We're all good.
Yeah. We had a good Roddy Piper episode with him, but he's like ExtraCooler. Yep, check, done. Off on to the next one. So he's got to suck up to somebody else.
It's interesting you bring up sucking up when he's had his issues we were talking about off air.
Oh man, yeah. Sorry, he ordered something from the company I work for, and it did not go well. But
typical Tom.
Poor Tom.
We could just shit on him for the next hour or two.
Debate Tom topics.
He's driving to work.
Tom's become my Yankee friend, so he and I will chat Yankees rumors back and forth too. So,
he's driving to work right now and popping huge because he's getting so much screen time right now.
All right, enough.
Right. So I think, we all know what the deal is. We got 3 topics. We'll get into the first one if you guys are ready.
We're ready.
Let's go. All right. First topic of the evening. The Usos, underrated or overrated?
Ooh. I'll kick it off. I think in the world of the WWE, they're rated. I feel like they get the love. I think it's right. I think they're one of the top. I would say they're the top team in WWE without a shadow of a doubt. I kind of cancel New Day because they're doing the Freebird rule. You're rotating between 3 guys. I do love New Day, but Usos been crushing it for a long time. But when you talk about, when I heard this question, I was kind of like, my mind went to the discussion of greatest tag teams in wrestling right now. There's a lot of talk about that with FTR crushing it. The Young Bucks are always getting brought up. Everyone's always throwing Usos. When you talk greatest of all time right now, like who are the greatest tag teams in the business right now? I think the Usos are overrated. I don't think you can throw your name in the hat when you're only working within a company. And that would go for any tag team, not just WWE tag teams. If you're only exclusive to one company, I think it does limit the reach and the claim you can make for being a GOAT. I think in order to be in the conversation of current greatest tag teams, I feel like you have to work in multiple companies. You have to dabble in multiple matches for multiple promoters. And, with FTR, ROH, New Japan, AAA, they're doing things in AEW, obviously, but Usos, you can't sleep on them. I don't want to make it seem like I'm discrediting this team. They're 3-time Raw champs. They're 5-time SmackDown champs. They won the PWI Tag Team of the Year award back in 2014. And they're the first team to hold both the Raw and SmackDown titles. They've got the longest singular run right now with 370 plus days. But what's it really mean to hold a Raw and SmackDown title? That division is, if there was killers, if they were surrounded by great tag teams in WWE, I would be all about it. But I think the thing that hurts them the most is the lack of emphasis on the tag division in the WWE that takes them out of the discussion for me. So I say they are overrated.
So you're essentially, in your debate here, you are essentially removing the entirety of WWE from tag team wrestling discussion. And you're maybe not wrong, because they're the top of the WWE list that maybe has 3 total teams on it, right? if you're really talking about it, you've got the Usos, you've got the New Day, you've got
Street
War
Profits.
Machine,
Street Profits,
or Street Profits. Thank you. And then I just called the War Machine, but the Viking Raiders and what else?
Alpha
RK
Academy
Bro
maybe
doesn't count.
Yeah,
you're totally discrediting the WWE tag division, rightfully so. But I feel like they're properly rated for what we know about them. I know I'm taking the middle road here and it's lame for a debate, but in the same breath, there's no way they can be underrated for what they're doing, because the big guy that just left the business liked them enough and was able to witness or to realize that tag team wrestling was at least worthy of being on their screens. And it was likely because of 5 people, and 2 of them had the last name of Fatu. So for me, they are properly rated. And I would have loved if there was a way for us to pick them up and drop them in the middle of everything that's going on the other side, on the other channel, when you can drop them in the middle of a Young Bucks, FTR, a Briscoes, which, oh my God, they're operating on a whole nother level. And just being able to place them there, I feel like they would be able to hold their own if the WWE chains were taken off.
Yeah, oh, man. I now I got to find a way to disagree with you guys. They've been around since 2009, which is crazy when you think about it. I know longevity shouldn't count for overrated or underrated, but 13 years is a long time to be doing what you're doing, especially with one company. So I got to give them that.
One company that doesn't really care about tag team wrestling,
which is crazy. I like to tell stories. Matt and I went to a house show back in, I don't even know what year it was, 2013, 14. And I don't know, I will always associate this with the Usos. They had those the pleather pants on or shorts.
Oh yeah.
And I can remember Matt pointing out to me like how bad they slapped their leg, like how, especially at a house show, like it was so different than, you know, what you see on TV. And from that moment, I've always had them as overrated in my mind. It's hard to rate them because you've never seen them against anybody outside of WWE, like you guys are saying. So
are you ever disappointed with an Usos match?
No.
Like sure, it's not going to be FTR Briscoes. There's no way. You're never going to get that out of WWE. Well, I mean, we just got a really good match between the Street Profits and the Usos at the last pay-per-view, Money in the Bank. But I'm never like leaving an Usos match going like, man, that sucked. And their gimmick with the whole tribal chief thing and the whole bloodline is just on a whole nother level for them. And from them being the chubby guys that came out and did the war dance to now, it's like watching them evolve has been so cool. And I really love it. I think that they're in the right spot. They're in the right place. And I would love to see it, but we're never going to see them thrown into the mix of the real tag world.
I'd also call them overrated because I've been watching them for how many years and I couldn't tell you who's Jimmy and who's Jay. Like, I don't mean to be a dick, but I couldn't tell you who's who.
I'm there. I'm right there with you on that. Sneed, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it is tough. It's so tough because with the emphasis that's on tag team wrestling and all of these other companies and all of the amazing tag teams that we have out there, and the matches that we're getting across all these different companies, it's hard to properly rate them because we don't know what they could do. We don't know what it would be like to have them over there. Now, Matt, you were right. I mean, you're never left with, you know, when you see an Usos match, they always put on good matches, but if I'm thinking about grand scheme of it, I'm going to say they're overrated just because I've just never, honestly, I've never been a fan of them. They've always seemed, you know, their matches are good, but I've never had a storyline with them that I've been pumped about.
That's what I was going to say is when you think great tag teams, you think some of the great feuds that happen in those tag divisions. And when I think Usos, I off the top of my head, I really couldn't tell you a long form mono-a-mono storyline they've been in.
No, the feud that they had with the New Day, that was about it. And
right.
Besides that, and this bloodline storyline.
If you look at what they're also asked to do on the WWE side, it's more than just what's in the ring. And for them to be entertaining outside of the ring is like a prerequisite check mark that you have to hit on the WWE side. And especially for a tag team that's been around for however many years that Nick said, 13, 14 years, for them to be able to hit that side as well is certainly something important. And I think a check mark on the correct side of the rating, so to speak, that I'm arguing for.
I think I'm like reacting. This is a reactionary feeling for me just from, you know, going down the IWC, Twitter, Instagram rabbit hole where you know, right now, obviously FTR's in there's a lot of talk of FTR and you always see those comments like Usos are better. And I'm like, how are you even throwing them into this discussion?
No,
I think I'm having a gut reaction to that, but I'm with Matt. I'm with you guys. Like they never disappoint. Like they are a great tag team. And I think it's kind of sad to me that they are locked in this system where it's a lot of rinse and repeat with them. Like none of their, like the Street Profits match, great match, but even though it was a great, just in the ropes match, outside the story wasn't there. So I'm not connecting to it as much as, you know, the FTR Briscoes build up and them going at it on Twitter and Instagram. And you have this, like, it made that match feel like a big fight feel. An Usos match just feels like, this is the tag team match on the pay-per-view. It doesn't feel like, man, we're seeing something special. But having said that, you got to give the Usos credit because like you said, Nick, they've been in that system for so long, and to stay relevant in a division that, let's be honest, has never had more than 3 to 5 solid teams. At any one time, there's just a handful of teams that they kind of trade matches with. So maybe they are for the system they're in, maybe they are underrated because they've continued to do this for so long. I think so. I would say underrated in the WWE system, and maybe in the grand scheme of the pro wrestling business, they're a little overrated.
I can agree with what you just said there, that they, for what they have done, I don't think it goes unnoticed. I don't think it goes underappreciated. But if you were to, I keep saying that if you were to pick them up and drop them in the middle of the other channel, they would certainly not be at the top of the list.
I think now is going to be an interesting time too. Like everybody's buzzing with hope for the WWE with Vince gone. So maybe now they'll get a chance, and the whole tag team division will get a chance, and maybe then they can prove themselves a little bit more. Because what's the infamous thing that Vince always used to say? Why would I pay 2 guys? Why would I pay 4 guys when I could pay 2 guys?
God, I hate that.
It's the worst. So hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully,
here's why you pay 2 guys. Because we want a tag division, dude.
Right. How many times do these guys, again, like we said with their matches, the pay-per-view or premium live event, whatever it's called, it ends, and most of the time people are talking about that tag team match, and what happened, the action inside the ring.
And Nick, you brought up, you made my mind go somewhere. Here's the exciting thing, and we've talked about, I think everyone's gave their take on Vince stepping down, being pushed out, however you want to phrase it. But the exciting thing right now, and it's kind of, I'm sad that Vince is gone, even though I think everything he did, he's a shithead.
Yeah.
But it's weird not having Vince as a part of WWE. But the positive, look at that 2014 to 2017 NXT tag division, Alpha Academy, the Revival, DIY, all of those teams, dude, they were putting on 5-star tag team matches back then. So if that comes into Raw and SmackDown in the future, that's going to be exciting. And to your point, Matt, God, could you imagine the Usos with the cuffs off, being able to go away from that safe performance center style of wrestling and letting it all hang out in a match with the Briscoes, in a match with FTR as they are in, current day form? It would be incredible.
Do we think they could do it? Who knows?
They've been in that system for a long, long time. So
yes, sir.
I want to
say do it.
I want to see a reinvigorated tag team division in WWE now.
Yeah. I mean, the talent is there.
Yeah.
Anytime that I've reposted news regarding Triple H in creative, I just put hope on top, because that's ultimately how I'm feeling. It's just, I'm hopeful. Just give me a little bit. Give me just a little bit.
I think it'll take time.
Yeah, sure. Agreed.
But I think 6 months from now is going to be a great kind of litmus test when he's had time to really implement some of his foundational work storyline wise. I think free agency is going to be extremely interesting now, because I think there are a lot of people that were leaning for other companies that now Vince is out. They're like, "Ooh, I like Triple H. I'll work for him." So yeah, it's exciting, man. I'm so stoked for the possibility of a great tag division though in WWE.
Definitely.
Let's just get the Viking Raiders not be the emo Raiders, and then we'll feel okay.
Go back to War Machine. Come on.
Amen.
All right. Are we ready to move on to our next topic?
Let's do it.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go. Next topic. If Bret Hart re-signed with WWE in 1997, would the Attitude Era still happen and defeat WCW? Now, this is the question that you guys brought to the table, so we defer to you first.
Oh, man. So we said it earlier in the episode. We just covered 97 Bash at the Beach and SummerSlam. And I actually, it was a 4-part episode. And in the 4th episode at the very end, I brought this up to the guys. And we didn't really debate it. we didn't go into it.
I heard this, Nick, and it got my brain. I was like,
it's
ooh.
It's really interesting because I don't think we get the Attitude Era without Bret Hart, right? He was doing all the stuff that Stone Cold eventually did, and it worked for Stone Cold. I don't think, I'll use the word again, longevity. I don't think personally Bret Hart, if he stayed in WWF, I don't think he could have pulled it off. I think he would have gotten stale. I think people would have legitimately really gotten tired of him. I don't know. He was like the face of the company, and I don't see them shifting completely to that Attitude Era with him as their top guy or as a top 3 guy.
Would we have gotten Austin McMahon? Should have been like the real question here is like, sure, the Attitude Era would still happen in some capacity.
Great
but
point.
Would we get the vigorous, ferocious Austin versus McMahon if Bret Hart was still there and they didn't have to do the screw job in theory, and you don't have to really break that fourth wall, and you don't have to have Vince on camera turn into Mr. McMahon? Like, that's the part that is the most intriguing for me.
Imagine a world where Bret holds that title beyond Survivor Series and carries it into WrestleMania, and it's Stone Cold versus Bret again. And you've got to imagine if that happens throughout Royal Rumble and the winter, Bret is that like anti-authority figure. And I don't know if Austin gets there. I don't know. There's a lot of moving parts in my opinion. But I just don't see Bret maintaining that top guy status and carrying WWF to the Attitude Era.
And I think the core of it too is, I mean, even breaking it down further, just simpler than what Matt said, like, do we get Mr. McMahon?
Right.
Because
that was born out of the screw job.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. And there were hints of it that summer in 96, or 97, sorry. There were hints of it, with Bret like ripping the headphones off of Vince at the announce booth. But really it was mostly him, behind the booth, and you started to see like maybe he's not the owner of the company. You started to see different versions of Vince coming out, but nothing like we saw in the Attitude Era.
Now, are you guys looking at this in kind of if he never left, he would have remained on top, and then the Attitude Era? Because here's how I looked at it. Like, okay, so the screw job happened in November of 97. Steve Austin, Stone Cold, debuted as Stone Cold in March of 96.
Yeah.
Okay. So Stone Cold's already in the vacuum. He's coming down the pike. Scott Hall, May of 96, comes in to WCW. July of 96, the NWO debuts. Hogan joins the New World Order. Their existence, I think, would force the hand of Vince doing something edgier, regardless if Bret was there or not. So I do think we would have gotten to an edgier product.
Yes.
But the thing that's exciting to me to think about, if Bret never left, imagine an Attitude Era where, okay, we probably wouldn't have got Vince and Stone Cold, but with that vacuum gone of the McMahon Stone Cold feud, that opens up. Imagine all of the storylines between HBK, Bret Hart, Stone Cold. My wonder is, okay, you've got those 3 guys. Those are your top guys in the company if Bret doesn't leave. So and Undertaker's coming up too during that time. So you've got those 4 guys kind of exchanging storylines. Rock doesn't turn heel until August of 97. DX debuts in August of 97. So what happens to DX and The Rock if Bret Hart, HBK, and a surging Stone Cold are trading storylines? And does Stone Cold become as big as he was without Vince? So there's so many, like, I do think the Attitude Era would happen, but like, man, it's different. It's totally different.
I see Bret Hart as filling the McMahon role to a certain extent, and doing what they did with Shawn and Bret, and having that feud that is infamous. You could have gone after WrestleMania 13, which is my personal favorite match of all time. You have Bret and Austin and the chemistry that was there, and who are we lying? Bret Hart could have a great match with pretty much anyone and elevate them to a whole nother level. And that's coming from me. Anybody that knows the history of ExtraCooler, that's saying a lot. But for me, like, Bret Hart could fill that McMahon role. He could be that catalyst, that amazing heel that we could have gotten even more of Crybaby Bret, where everyone would have turned on him, and it would have either catapulted him into even better and higher levels of heel work, or it could have plummeted him to a Hulk Hogan Postamania style worn out babyface where nobody cares about him anymore. So this is like one of those questions that we can all talk about forever, but like, who knows, man? Like, that's the beauty of the question, though.
There's also
if Bret doesn't leave, does he become known for being one of the all-time greatest heels?
I still personally think that run, like I talk about this all the time, that version of Bret Hart in 97 is like one of my favorite wrestlers of all time.
I'm with you. The Hart Foundation, come on.
But that Hart Foundation is absolutely incredible. Canadian Stampede is one of my favorite pay-per-views of all time. It's his best work, in my opinion.
100%. Because when I think of Bret Hart, to me, Bret Hart is still 97 Bret and will forever be 97 Bret, to the point where I argue, tongue in cheek, maybe to an extent, but I always argue Bret Hart is the best heel ever.
Yeah.
Best heel ever.
He's so good.
There's
Except
another,
for maybe Mr. McMahon, but still.
There's another like perfect storm that also happens with all of this, with Shawn being injured and going away. Like, if it was Bret versus Stone Cold at WrestleMania 14, would Bret go away for an extended period of time? That allowed Shawn to go away. Bret was gone. Stone Cold and The Rock were able to then come in to their own, and it gave them time, and Triple H and The Undertaker and Kane. It's opened up a lot of windows.
Man, a Bret Hart Triple H feud, long-term story.
Yeah. Even there's a Rock and Bret Hart match that's out there, like from early in Rock's career, just like the two of them, if they went together, would have been cool.
Could you imagine a heel Rock Nation of Domination going against, the barbs between, come on.
And it's interesting to think too, like other people, how they would have been affected, because I think, you got to think about what would that have made Owen's run look like. With Owen, because if Bret never left, he would have had probably more say in what his character did. He probably would have gone back to Blue Blazer. I mean, it's all butterfly effect stuff, but it's interesting to think what their runs would look like as well.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We spoke about the same thing, like, we go off on the tangent, but like Owen, injuring Stone Cold at SummerSlam 97. There's so many things that, who knows, that cut both of their careers short, unfortunately.
Oh, if that injury never happens,
you're
looking at a long run for Stone Cold.
Yeah.
Long. They're not taking the rocket off that guy. So the part of this question that we have yet to kind of touch on, though, would, if he never left WWF at the time, would they have defeated WCW in the wars? Now we have two WWE. You're from McMahon country. We're from Crockett country. WCW. Maybe I'm a little biased. I think the one reason that WWE kicked WCW's ass was the McMahon Stone Cold feud.
Yes.
I think that feud turned the table. There were great things, Rock's coming up, DX, I love all of that. But if it wasn't for McMahon and Stone Cold, I don't think WCW loses, because I think WCW, once that feud kicked off, WCW made the huge mistake of trying to keep up. And they were trying everything. And oh, well, they're beating us now. They're being very edgy. Let's go back to family entertainment. They didn't know.
Right.
They lost their identity trying to compete with that feud. So I think if that feud's off the table, Bret Hart, Stone Cold, they're doing their thing, but there's no McMahon Stone Cold feud. I think there's a good possibility WCW could have won the war.
It's interesting because also at that time, WWF started to elevate themselves, right? And they pulled away. Like we looked at Bash at the Beach 97, and the beginning half of Bash at the Beach 97, which is our first episode, the card was amazing.
Yeah.
Just the matches and the work rate was absolutely incredible. But then you look at like the second half of it, and that's where like all that outrageous crap started to happen.
Yeah.
Rod the Bod,
the Worm,
and yeah, just so like what I'm getting at is if WWF didn't start to elevate, would like the Jerichos have come over, or like the Benoits and the Eddie Guerreros? Would they have had the interest to come over? Man, I don't know. Because we spoke about it again. To compare the two, Bash at the Beach and SummerSlam, Bash at the Beach starts off incredible and then it just declines. Whereas WWF goes up.
History is always told through the victor's eyes, right? So
yes,
WWF would have won.
No, and I totally agree with what you're saying, because what I'm getting at is those guys they may have stayed in WCW, and who knows if they were given that shot in WCW, to be main eventers, they could have elevated the product even more.
That's the big thing is I think, not to cut you off, Matt, but I think with Stone Cold and McMahon, that feud being off the table, do they feel the need to get high on their own supply and push Hogan's and Nash's and give them just carte blanche to do whatever they want to do? Would they have allowed the Jerichos, the Eddie Guerreros, those guys to kind of elevate? Because I think when they were trying to combat that McMahon Austin feud, I think they were like, they couldn't see the forest for the trees. They're like, we got to push our biggest names on TV and pop ratings. At Hogan, let's get them all out there. Goldberg, let's push them. Meanwhile, you've got killers in Eddie, Ray, Chris Jericho crushing it on the cruiserweight division, just begging for an opportunity to be top guys. So, man, it's interesting that taking away the McMahon Austin feud really makes the victor of the Monday Night Wars a big question.
Totally.
For me, the key is the NWO and how diluted it got, and how everybody had a shirt on and everybody was doing this, that, and the other thing. And I do not claim to be a WCW expert by any means, but for me, that dilution of what made NWO so cool, and maybe it's because I'm like rewatching 96 Bash at the Beach recently, but for me, like, them trying to figure out that and navigate those waters and giving creative control to guys that probably shouldn't have had it, even if their name was Hulk Hogan. At the end of the day, that to me was the biggest downfall. And I think we get that regardless of where WWE, WWF ends up. But again, taking away Austin McMahon, anything could happen.
No, I feel like does NWO get diluted though without,
right.
If you take away, are they just trying to throw shit at the wall at that point? Because so Montreal Screwjob, November 97 is when that hits. I believe correct me if I'm wrong, Sneed, the big push, the big storyline in WCW was the Starrcade 97 Sting Hogan. That was the culmination of that storyline.
Right.
So, and they botched that. I mean, that match
I was waiting for you to say
it. You throw Bret Hart in there. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's interesting, man. What do you think, Sneed? Who do you think takes it?
My heart says WCW. But I mean,
fucking Homer.
But taking, because I mean, Brett was part of that muddied up NWO.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bret was part of that. So like, I think the whole Austin McMahon thing, like, it just throws a wrench and throws everything up in the air, man. But I just think NWO, I'm just a huge mark for him, man. So I go WCW.
That shows you the power of that Austin McMahon.
Totally.
It shows you the power of it, because if you take that out like it never happened, everything changed. Everything is up in the air. You don't know how anything would land, because so many things like branched out of that. And even the little tiny sub stories of Undertaker's ministry, DX getting involved in that, the corporate ministry, The Rock coming up, that came out of the Austin McMahon feud, The Rock's ascension as a heel. Like, that throws so many things into question. I love that topic and thinking what could have been.
Oh man, think of Bret Hart getting crucified like Stephanie McMahon on the Undertaker logo, not the crucifix, the Undertaker logo.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh man.
We'll never know, fellas.
We'll never
know. I think we had a similar topic one time, Sneed. Didn't we do if the curtain call never happened?
Yeah, if the curtain call never happened.
You know, it's funny. I went to propose this question and I had to like dive back onto your episodes, because I was like, I swear, did I get this from a previous debate episode? Like, I got to do my homework and make sure I didn't.
There's nothing better though than those what could have been, what would have happened. I love those questions.
I got to explain the curtain call to somebody for the first time the other day that had never heard about what happened.
Wow.
It was just a casual wrestling fan, and just
incredible.
never heard what happened. Yeah.
Sometimes I was about to ask, was it young Anthony? No.
Sometimes we're so deep into our bubble of being hardcore marks that you think that everyone knows this knowledge. Like, it cracks me up.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you guys are ready, we can move into the final topic, which I think should be a good one. All right, here we go.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Who is more cringe, Tony Khan or Vince McMahon?
Whoa, this is a hard one. Okay, and before I give my answer, there's a few questions I have. Are we talking like Vince McMahon right now, or are we talking Vince McMahon like his like entire?
I knew it was coming.
That's immediately where my mind went. Because the sample size is very different.
We can I mean, obviously I feel like with recent things,
yes,
take the Wall Street Journal recent allegations. We can we can table those. Just
Oh.
I'm gonna kick this off. Ready? Here we go. It's all about batting average. And sure, Tony Khan has not had as many at bats as Vince McMahon has, who has been there forever and ever and ever. If you couldn't tell today, I'm talking a lot of baseball, I guess. But for me, I feel like every time we see Tony Khan, there's a little bit of cringe in everything he does. That's just on screen. Tony Khan. Where Vince McMahon, there's a lot of good. There was a lot of home runs. He hit a lot of dingers, but there was a lot of bad do-rags. There was a lot of bad things that just were
fucking do-rag
cringe. And even if we take out the stuff that's going on now, cringe isn't the word that I use for it, because it's above cringe. It's just beyond that. But for me, the historic Tony Khan on my television screen has been, is he on coke, was one question. Impact appearances were brutal bad. The hugging thing, the let's effing go, like all of these things, every time we see him gives me a little cringe. And I haven't even started talking about the level of Twitter troll that I believe he is, but I think he gets off on it. So maybe that's a little different.
Oh, man. All right. My biggest celebrity crush is Kelly Kapowski, right? When I watch Saved by the Bell, I'd want to be Zach Morris, and with Kelly Kapowski, Tony Khan strives to be Screech. in my opinion. Like there's a little bit of screech in Tony Khan, you know, like there. No,
kudos to the screech reference. I love it.
Rest in peace, Dustin Diamond.
But you know, like I went back and I talk a lot of shit about Tony Khan. We call him Tiny Tony on our show, and
we hear you.
But deep down, how would I act if I was in his shoes and had that money and was able to do what he's doing? I don't know. I might be giving those kind of little bear hugs around FTR's waist. You know, I don't know. I don't think I could be cool, calm, and collected if I'm a mark at heart, man. I've loved wrestling my whole life, and you know, God bless this guy, as cringy as he is.
I am now having flashbacks to 2007, 2008, 2009 ExtraCooler late night in the bars and his mouth running. And man, Tiny Cooler may be your new nickname on our show here. There's a little Tony Khan in ExtraCooler over here.
Look, I get. Here's the thing. We've talked about this on the Tavern before. The tweets here, when I think of Tony and Vince, you know, if I'm going down and making my checkmark list of what they do that is cringe, you know, from both sides, Tony he's a troll. He's a Twitter troll. He loves to poke the bear. He loves to stoke the fire on social media. He's hugging wrestlers. He's the Impact Wrestling promos. He's putting his beef on Front Street with WWF. I think of him calling out Nick Khan. There's only room for one Khan in pro, you know. He's terrible on camera. As far as like a on-screen, now granted, he's not a character on AEW storytelling, but when say he comes out to announce the purchase of Ring of Honor, it's very rare that he shows up on Dynamite, but when he does, he's pretty terrible on camera. Vince, great on camera. Guy is a bona fide character. Like, I can't tell you how many times I quote Vince McMahon daily in my life. I mean, he's one of my favorite. You're fired. God damn, pal. You know, like you love Vince McMahon. But then you get into the off-color, just potty humor. You get into the racist shit that he dives into a little bit, the sexism shit. It was all a part of the Attitude Era. I was eating that shit up as a kid. I'm not trying to be Mr. Woke USA. That's the furthest thing from what I am. Tony puts their beef on Front Street. Vince does his beef behind closed doors. They take their shots, but they are a corporate company. They take the more clandestine cloak and dagger approach, where Tony's just more of a Dana White UFC. If I got shit to say, I'm going to put it out there in the public. But when I look at Tony, here's the thing that makes me say Vince is a little more cringe. One, dude's pushing 80. He's a corporate buttoned up guy. A lot of the stuff he does, and this is all we're talking pre-Wall Street Journal, him resigning. He's just awkward now. He feels like the lost grandpa, you know, coming down to the ring, trying to stay hip and cool, but he's totally out of touch. When I see Tony, I see one of us. I see a fan with a lot of money who isn't a good on-screen guy. He's not made for TV. He just has money. He's a hardcore wrestling fan. Go back. The dude was at ECW shows front row watching Chris Jericho. It's not like this is a hobby he picked up late in life. He is a lifelong fan. And when I see him gripping the waist of Dax Harwood and Cesaro / Claudio, is it cringe for the social media, you know, snapping the shot, taking a gif of it and then resharing it? Yeah, it's cringe as fuck. But as far as like being in the moment, dude, that's me. Yeah. If I had Chris Jericho, I would be like so thankful and so like outer body happy of just, I can't believe I've watched this form of entertainment my entire life. And now these guys that I grew up loving work for me, and I get to have this personal relationship with him. So I do think he has a little touch of maybe autistic. I think he's a little on the spectrum, I should say. And I think that's where his awkwardness comes from. But I don't know, man. As far as like, to me, what cringe is, Vince does a lot more cringy shit than I feel like Tony's just a guy who doesn't need to be on camera. And he's that nerdy Uber fan. And Vince is a guy who wants to be on camera. Look at me. And it's ego, I don't know. And I love Tony putting his shit on Front Street. I love that he talks shit. I'm a fan of, hey, put your shit out there.
To rebel rouse.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that, because there is such a passionate AEW fan base that loves when he does it.
You
and it stokes the flames, and you get that whole crowd behind him, and it's working. Like there's nothing wrong.
It's the ECW thing when Taz was trashing, I'm the only real champ, all the other champs are pussies. ECW built that rabid following by playing into the it's us versus them, and I think 100%. They're just kind of taking a page from that book.
Totally. and you're right, he is one of us. And that's why he goes out and he does Busted Open, and he does the wrestlings, and he does the interviews that he was just on Cheap Heat, which is, really a WWE product, even with a WWE guy, and he's out there on Cheap Heat. So for me, he is, or maybe it was Masked Man, regardless, he was on one of the Ringer shows, and
I think it was Masked Man. I love Masked Man.
Yeah, I think you're right. But regardless, Tony's out there because he is one of us. He is a fan, and you're 1,000% correct. But I'm totally looking at batting average. The majority of the time that I see Tony Khan, there is something that's a little cringe in my world.
Do you guys think that you have to separate? Because here's what made it hard for me is how much I love Vince, the character.
Oh, without a doubt.
Like it's different from the man when he's being the true CEO businessman of WWE versus Mr. McMahon on-screen character, because Mr. McMahon on-screen character, I love that so much that it almost makes me give him a mulligan on how he is as a real person.
Yeah.
So I think
now is it giving him a mulligan, or is it making Tony try to fit into this round peg square hole that he can never fit into?
Yeah,
because he's never going to be Vince.
And I think he made a smart, and people are saying he's putting himself on TV with the Impact promos. I think that was all just a part of that partnership and him kind of having fun with that. Do I think Tony Khan's ever going to be an on-screen commissioner character in AEW?
No way.
Absolutely not. I think we will only see him when big news he feels he needs to come out and break, because let's be honest, he would never scratch the bottom of the rung of the greatness of Vince as a character. Like he doesn't have it. Tony doesn't have it. He knows that.
Yeah. And I think he's smart enough to know that. And he does it because there's a big bit of troll in there that he enjoys, and rebel rousing the people that love him, and more power to him for doing it. But he's still super cringe.
The hardest part I have with going with saying Vince is less cringe, if you will, is just everything he's done. Without Vince, we're not here. We're not the four of us aren't talking right now.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And there's that part that's always going to sit in the back of my mind when talking about Vince. Like in high school, people would be like, who's your role model or your hero? Like, and it was Vince, and it wasn't because of the on-screen character. It was because of what he created and the pure entertainment that he's provided me throughout my lifetime. I don't know. That's just me being a sap.
He's the single most important person in pro wrestling,
without a doubt.
Like there's not even a question.
No.
When we lived in New York City, we had a couple buddies who worked at Tower Records, Lincoln Center, with us. And we went to tons of Raws at the Garden. We went to ECW One Night Stand, I would proudly put on my t-shirt. It was a black t-shirt with just a big face of Vince McMahon. You know what I mean? Like that.
Yep.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I'm in New York. I'm in WWE country. I love this guy, but so I get it, man. I have all of this stuff coming out with Vince. Really, it fucks me up in my head a little bit. I got to be honest, because
Without a doubt,
I've loved that guy for so long, and just what he's given to us as fans. And for all that shit to come out, it really messes with me of how I should feel about it.
Completely agree.
It sounds like it's going to get a whole lot worse real quick too.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's going to.
And even though it fucks with me, like, here's the thing, like, I'm not taking up for him. If he did, he did this shit, get him the fuck out of there.
Yeah,
Let Triple H, we
agreed.
need some fresh blood.
Yep.
But just as being a fan and how much I've looked up to him in the past, it makes it tricky,
Agree.
He is responsible, and like you said, he's the most important person in the wrestling world, period, end of story. And he's done so much for the business that you have to appreciate what he did historically, but it doesn't change that he's still a scumbag.
Yeah.
Sneed, we haven't heard you. What do you think, man?
It's tough, man. It's tough to really to say who's more cringe. With Tony, man, he's just a fan. And and to go back to what you said, Chad, like if I was in that position, it would 100% be me. There would be podcasts having debates whether
Dude, I'd be crying
or not.
Yeah, seriously.
I'm with you, Chad.
I'm right there too.
Yeah, there's no way I would ever believe that I was in a position to be sitting at tables with these guys that, especially after being a lifelong fan yourself, and somebody who, would fly to go see ECW shows and sit front row and has just all this crazy knowledge of what the history of wrestling is. It's just tough. And then you get Do-Rag Vince, and you get the stuff that he did,
what's good in the hood.
Yeah.
I'm glad I was not watching during that era.
Oh my God.
Every time I see it.
And even more recently, outside, Vince kind of gave us a peek a couple of times, on the Pat McAfee show, which was different. And then there was a picture that came out of him and Donnell Rawlings backstage
at Chappelle.
Yeah.
Chappelle,
at Chappelle.
And that picture was a little cringe to me.
Very.
That was like, dude, you're 80. Stop trying to be 40.
Yeah, you're dripping in sweat right now. Someone get this man a shirt.
Yeah, the hair, the styling of the hair in the picture was a little cringe. But I don't know, man. It's hard for me, on certain levels. Yeah, Tony Khan is a little bit, I guess, cringe, but I think he takes a lot of heat too, because some of the things that he's done, I think it's automatically cringe when people see what he does. I think he's done some things that were cringe, and now everybody just sees everything he does is cringe.
Yeah.
Under a microscope, for sure.
Right.
He's under the microscope of it. So I just don't think he's cringe.
Yeah, I get that. I get that he's definitely like a little more under the microscope a little bit now.
I feel like the internet is just waiting to pick apart the next thing.
Oh,
what we get him for now?
Oh,
all right,
this point,
another hug. Woo!
People can't wait for the media scrums because they know there's going to be a hug, and they instantly, it's like, there it is, cringe.
There's so many people that are probably watching it just for those moments.
But he's doing it on purpose at this point. You got to believe.
Maybe he's trolling. I mean, he's a good troll. Maybe he's trolling with the hugs. Yeah.
Tony, I'll give you a hug if you ever come and see me.
That's one thing I feel like we're a little. I mean, obviously we do a show all about AEW, and it kind of brought me back into my super, super hardcore wrestling fandom. So I feel like sometimes I get into that. I got to defend this man,
Right.
and I don't want to be like that. But when we went to All Out last year in Chicago, me, Sneed, Hawk, Mike Belcaster, we met him in Chicago, and my girlfriend Cassie, and we go to the hotel bar where the wrestlers are staying, and Tony Khan comes down, and Ric Flair's at the bar. All the guys are there, all the wrestlers. This is 2:00 in the morning, people just hanging out, drinking. And Ric Flair's there and Tony Khan comes down, and you're talking, it's not like a bunch of fans. This is a very intimate, mostly just the crew and staff are there and the talent and a few of the, fans that are staying at the hotel. And Tony's there. Cool fucking guy, man. Just sitting there shooting the shit with the fans. So like appreciative, like just that people going up to him and talking to him, and he's just literally chilling at the bar talking to Rick. And in that moment I was like, how cool is it? This guy's worth fucking billions of dollars. His family owns a NFL football team. He owns an AEW, a professional wrestling nationally televised place, and he's just kind of rubbing elbows with the common man, for lack of a better word, and being appreciative of the fan support. Vince, maybe we would have saw that in the early 80s, late 70s. Maybe he did that. He went out with the boys. But we're seeing that now with this young guy who's maybe a year or two older than me. I'm 38. He's 39, 40, somewhere in there. I just saw myself in him sitting there. And it was like, man, he really is just like you say that about celebrities all the time, but like, it's just a fucking normal guy, man. He just happens to have money. His family happens to have money, and he got to do this thing. And so I think I'm a little biased there, getting to like, rub elbows with the man.
I don't know. I feel like if I call Tony Khan cringe, I feel like I'm calling myself cringe. I feel like that's kind of, I
think it's also hard to compare the two because of the generational gap between
100%.
When you think about it, and when we talk about all the things that we've spoken about in the last few minutes, like we all are around the same age, and we would be in the same shoes as him if we had the amount of money that he has.
Dude, that's such a good point, because the types of cringe they are, like Tony is the cringe of like, he's your buddy who's hugging the celebrity he meets, and you're like, dude, you're looking kind of silly. Vince is the old person trying to be young cringe. Like it's different levels of cringe, but so true.
Well, does anybody have anything final to say, to add to it before we wrap up?
I think that's it, man. We went hard on that.
It was fun.
It was
it's always fun to have you fellas on, man.
Yeah, this one was
fun
a
to be here, that's for sure.
Well, when we have you on, it gives us a break from Tom. So
perfect scenario.
It's a win-win for everybody.
Feels like a little bit of a tag team match here, like the WCW boys versus the WWF boy, like
I love it.
It makes it fun.
It
like
does make it fun.
Because there's so many times I listen to your show and like I could go into the questions and have my opinion, but like everybody does such a good job convincing me to think otherwise, or to like open my mind. And I don't know, that's cool to me. So kudos to you guys for doing what you do on this show, because it's one of my favorites.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
It's the same. When I listen to you guys, I'm one. Sometimes you'll say things, I'm like, no, and then you'll say something else. I'm like, okay, I kind of get that. I see that.
Well, guys, tell everybody where they can find you and where they can consume all of your product.
Matt, I'm going to let you take it away.
Oh, catching me off guard. All right. So we are the Extra Cooler Show. We are really based in that nostalgia. We take old matches, we break them down with Nick, myself, and two of our other longtime buddies. And, we're reliving our childhood through wrestling. And Nick will usually throw up a couple of different matches on a poll on his Instagram over at Extra Cooler. And if you haven't seen his art, please go check it out. He's incredible. He won't tell you that, but I sure as hell will.
Thank you.
And man, we have a blast. We go through current events in our extra credit segment. Nick is a teacher, so we've got some homework episodes, we've got some extra credit episodes, but come back, enjoy some nostalgia with us. I think we have a lot of good fun with it. And Pod Foundation, cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I gotta say, before we let you guys go, I love the nostalgia trips, but I'd be lying if when you guys do the extra credit episodes, I always pop for those because I'm like, I love hearing your takes on on what's going on now. So I love everything you guys do. And while I have Nick on here, Nick, you just did a recent artwork piece for us. Thank you.
Always
I just wanted to publicly say that.
Thank you. Always a pleasure, guys.
Awesome. Well, guys, that's going to wrap us up for this edition of the Turnbuckle Debate. Make sure you guys are following everything Turnbuckle Tavern at theturnbuckletavern.com. Usually this is where I say, Tom, get your shit in, but he's not here.
Yeah, come on, Tom. I want to see you here for round 3.
He's got to be here soon.
He's really popping at the attention that he's getting on.
Oh, he's getting a ton today. A ton.
Huge.
Court is dismissed.